There we go. It helps when you have the volume on.
We're going.
It's moving now. Yeah, it's a little hot, huh?
Oh, yeah. The board is hot. Everything is hot, hot, hot.
There we go. Okay, so Jason, what the hell is Metcalfe's law? For the people that are viewing this, we got it up on the screen.
Yeah, let's dive into this. I think it's really interesting. I think it'll show people an explanation of, especially back in the day, when you began to, who came up with the first network? It was like Stanford, wasn't it, when they were coming up with the internet and stuff?
No, that's correct. They were working on Tim Berners-Lee after that, World Wide Web, all that good stuff. But the idea here is that when they were doing the early internet, they most of this there was no Wi-Fi,
right?
So they thought about it in the sense of how many Ethernet connections, essentially hardwires, do we have coming into one cross network? So you have, like, say for instance, phone to phone. That's one Ethernet.
Yes.
So you're dialing into whatever that IP might be. Okay, now what happens when we add a third one? We got a triangle. 4. Now we have square within the network, but then it cuts across sides. So I can take the hypotenuse over to the next part of the network. Wow, this is becoming interesting. I can contact more people depending on the amount of vertices that end up getting added, right? Or essentially nodes. Now, the value of these networks, the robustness, was then calculated on this thing called Metcalfe's law, where if I hit a certain amount of nodes,
right,
then the value of the network became exponential, where it's going to work, it's going to be robust, and it's actually going to act as a proper communications channel across many different bodies.
Yeah, and I know it shows underneath here in this the validation, because we love data.
Yeah, here we go.
It talks about this right here. Maybe you could read that.
Yeah, it says, despite many arguments about Metcalfe's law, no real database evidence for or against was available for more than 30 years. So this guy has an idea, but it's funny that they put it into law.
Yes.
But they're like, we got no data to support it. So it wasn't until the Dutch start to analyze European internet usage patterns over long enough time, found the proportional value of how many nodes were required to actually support this idea. So,
yeah, and I thought it was cool. He actually uses Facebook's data over 10 years to show that the model worked.
And that's the whole point. So if we think about it here,
and they have a whole thing in 2018. They applied it to Bitcoin, showing that over 70% of variance in in Bitcoin value.
In Bitcoin value is explained. So what that's saying is, depending on the amount of nodes that continue to add to the network,
right,
the value increases. So we're
seeing that. Yeah.
Here's where we're getting to our sweet spot. So for every person that comes to join a network, say for instance like TARTLE, that individual acts as their own node, as Web 3.0, or as what you and I would coin as Web 4.0.
Right, right.
They are the self-sovereign individual that does their read-writing to the internet. And through that sovereign action of sharing, through their own choice, right, that essentially that digital human right, the internet can then analyze this with more advanced algorithms, AI, things of the sort. And it gets rid of, a lot of the issues where we have trouble in Web 3.0 defining things, terms. So I've learned a lot. We have our own engineering teams and stuff at TARTLE. The question is, how do you define something first? So once it's defined, we can all get on the same page.
Right, right.
So if we're thinking about the Metcalfe's law here and the value of what's being created at TARTLE, there's millions of people that come on the system, each one acting as its own node, each one projecting essentially a definition of how they view things, which then can be ingested by AI. So a lot of the pitfalls that are found within Web 3.0 deals with the data that's actually being received and how it's aggregated and individuals actually interacting with it.
Yes.
It's very difficult for people to actually understand a lot of the concepts, these newer concepts in Web 3.0, to feel the interaction. I don't get what's an NFT? What are all these things? If you simplify it to the fact that you've created something which you're going to share to the internet through your own definition or lens of the world, is going to help them understand this definition and then apply it to their own business intelligence or analytics to then give you some sort of gain back for doing that. There's reciprocity, there's balance in 3.0 that really didn't exist before.
So on this Metcalfe's law, whenever you're looking at a network and nodes,
yes,
how many nodes you said it's up to people.
It's up to people
on TARTLE.
That's correct. So there's been a transition now. It's no longer just computer to computer. We're
Right.
now talking about human beings as nodes.
Mm.
So as each individual person joins the TARTLE marketplace, or essentially that network, it becomes more robust. So the value and the definition and the sovereignty over your information becomes more robust. The protection of your digital rights become more robust with every single person that joins. Is that making sense?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. So let's, because I want people to understand this from a logical perspective. So if I have a human is a node.
A node.
Noid.
Noid.
What was that show?
Hey,
There was
Noid.
like little noids or
Yeah.
something. Yeah. Was it like a cartoon or something?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that's funny. So a node. So a
Yeah.
human's a node.
Yeah.
And then from there, now how does that network out? Like, so
good.
let's say somebody fills out a data packet.
Yeah.
Then how is that transfer of value to the node?
That's fantastic. So that node decides which connection is asking to come to it. So say a business on the other side wants to buy your data.
Yes.
From you, the human being, aka the node. You can choose amongst the 5,000 people coming in to buy it, which other node you would like to share with. So now it's not just open network, but it's also
Yes.
choice of where the communication goes.
That makes sense.
So there's robustness in the fact that people can connect to it, right? That we can become connected, but there's a layer of choice involved. Whereas before that wasn't there, and people were just abusing the fact that information was freely going around. We can aggregate all of it, and we can make money off of people's work. So the idea here is you can choose as a node who to communicate with.
So let me ask this. So the value of the work is being reported into the network. You have a free market of buyer seller.
Correct.
Where what was happening or what is happening even now, aside from TARTLE, you pull TARTLE out of the picture, you basically have slavery.
Yeah. So if you take TARTLE out as a tool, right? It's like a defensive tool.
Right.
Then you have just people working for companies for no pay. It's digital indentured servitude.
Yes.
And they're using your thoughts, emotions, behaviors, location, everything about you, and you aren't receiving any of the benefit for it. That's kind of ass backwards. We've seen the problems throughout history when slavery is the thing, right? This big group comes in, takes over an area, and says, "You're all going to be, our slaves. You're not going to get anything for it." It seems all well and good. We'll protect you. You know, we're stronger. We know what to do with the resources. So you just work. We'll keep you protected and happy, but don't pay attention to what we're doing. That world is vanishing because when you put TARTLE in there,
Yes.
it's like putting on the reality goggles. You know,
Yes.
there's like a low hum because there's so much
that's so
knowledge flying into your eyes, and you're like, "Oh my gosh, I can see everything going on."
I can see clearly now.
The rain.
That's we need a commercial of TARTLE. People are dancing in the rain.
And the
'cause they can
logo's
see clearly.
just raining on them.
It's bouncing on them. Yeah.
Oh man. So in simplicity, let's consider this. We have an ant colony. The value of communication
Perfect network
of an
super
organic
efficient.
network is super efficient.
Right.
And the communication is so quick because all these nodes are interacting through their own choice. The ant can stray up and say, "I'm going to go get some food further away from the anthill."
Right.
That's his choice.
Right.
But when they come back and choose to share, it's immediately becomes a part of that network, but it's very robust. So say, for instance, a flood comes in. People are thinking, I can drown the ants in water. No. Ants will survive for well over a week, completely encased in water.
They can just float. Yeah.
They float and they connect together.
Yeah.
So the robustness is there. So for every human being that joins TARTLE, and you have a function of Metcalfe's law that comes into it, you are creating a robustness on human rights. You're creating a robustness on your store of value for your data itself. Okay? And every time you share, you reinforce that law, and you reinforce the fact that you are the rightful owner of the information you've been creating, and you deserve the value for it.